This is Leon Charney for the Leon Charney Report. We're here this afternoon with a very interesting gentleman, a man named Gad Yaacobi, a former minister in the inner cabinet of the unity government of Israel, a member of the Knesset since 1969, considered an intellectual power in the Labor Party, and a man who could become the Prime Minister of Israel one day. On the Likud side, you have the princes, so-called princes of Israel. You have Dan Meridor, you have Ehud Olmert, you have a newcomer, Ruby Rivlin, you have Benny Begin. And on the labor side, it seems to be that there are three men who are focused on today, possibly as leaders. One is Moshe Shachar, former Minister, I believe, of Justice. The other is Energy. Mordechai Gur, former Chief of Staff of the Israeli Defense Forces, whom we've done an interview with, and Gad Yaacobi, who's known as an economist and a political scientist and a writer. Incidentally, he just wrote a new book called Wanted, a new course, and he'll explain this to us. It's basically what's been going on in the country and what should be going on, a new course of conduct for the Israeli government. Gad, welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Oy vey, as they say in Israel. We're in the middle today of James Baker, the Secretary of State, traveling around trying to make peace a la Carter days in Camp David, a la Kissinger in 101. What are your feelings today? Is there a shot?
I'm feeling that we might miss this effort as well, as we missed our effort to achieve progress towards peace a year ago, as we missed in 71 the effort to achieve interim agreement between Israel and Egypt that followed later on by the Yom Kippur War, as we missed in 74 the Jericho Plan that brought us to the crippling annexation of the territories and to the Intifada later on. And I'm afraid that we are going to miss this effort, and I think it's a great opportunity for the State of Israel. I think that if the negotiations will be started actually, then there will not be any escape for any of the parties to go back, to withdraw from the process. But the main problem now is how to bring together Israel and the Palestinians, or Israel and the Jordanian Palestinian delegation, together to negotiations in Cairo or in Camp David or at any other place.
Gad, you're a leading member of the Labor Party, and I want to pass two things past you about the Labor Party. One, a lot of people tell us, might have changed the whole history of Israel. When Shimon Peres was Prime Minister, and he had an opportunity to present a peace plan with Rabin and King Hussein of Jordan, he could have collapsed the government and asked for new elections. Many people in this country tell us this is going to be one of the most historic mistakes in Israel's history. Would you agree?
I fully agree. I fully agree with it. This was my position at that time, not now, not retrospective wisdom, as many of the politicians are so characteristic about it. I thought at that time that this is a national decision, a very strategic move, and this is a crossroad, and we have to bring it to the people of Israel, to ask them for their opinion, and to endanger the what's called the reliability of Shimon Peres in order to make a breakthrough in the standing of Israel internationally and our standing vis-à-vis the Arabs and the Palestinians in this region. And I think that the mistake is tragic, because at that time Shimon Peres considered it very seriously. In the what is called at that time Sareinu, the internal caucus of the Labour Party ministers, and he reacted to 3 or 4 of us who thought that we have to do it including Mota, by the way, that he is afraid that he'll be blamed for unreliability, and that was the main reason. He was afraid from the image the Likud tried to describe Shimon Peres by it. So he was a captive slave of his own image in the eyes of his opponents. And it was a tragic miss for the State of Israel. And I think a year ago, by the way, we did another mistake, because if a year ago, when we were united, I mean the Labour Party, I mean the Labour Party was united, we have had a very clear message moving towards negotiations with the Palestinians, which will be elected in the territories, in order to negotiate with us an interim agreement and later on a permanent solution. At that time, the Likud was splitted between Sharon and Shamir. We remember the two microphones, the resignation of Sharon, and the Labour Party was united. We have got a very clear message, and we had just to behave according to the coalition agreement, which said very clearly that if one of the parties, the Likud or the Labour alignment, will choose to break up the government, we have to agree upon an early elections date, and from the government to go to the people of Israel. Instead of it, we have decided, I stayed in a minority at that time, unfortunately, perhaps a minority of one person. There were 3 or 4 that were very unhappy of the move, but they didn't reject, they didn't oppose. And we have found ourselves out of the government. We voted against the government in the Knesset, and the government fall. We have tried to form an alternative government which had not from the beginning any chance to function together with the radical religious parties. And as a result of it, the Likud is running now the country. And as a result of it, we might find ourselves against in a stalemate concerning the peace process, which might be a tragedy for the State of Israel, because this is the key, this is the clue to whatever will happen here in the absorption of the new immigrants, in the restructuring of the Israeli economy, in the integration of the Israeli economy in the European market, in the free trade area with the United States, in keeping on the Israeli democracy, in forming ourselves as a democratic, cultural, Jewish state in the modern world, which is our main ambition and main target.
How do you describe this relationship between Peres and Rabin? Is that destroying the Labour Party?
This is a continuing phenomenon for the last 17 years, almost a generation, almost generation.
3 minus a generation.
And it's, I think, one of the reasons that the Labour Party is sinking. Because such a, I would say, forced, obsessive coexistence between two leaders, and I say it very frankly, they are both very talented people, as they were, perhaps as they are, depends on in what eyes you look at this phenomenon, but this I would say, coexistence is freezing the growth of new leadership in the Labour Party, is making the Labour Party looked as a very old-fashioned, frozen political structure, and it is closing the party to new winds, new opinions, new approaches, and new people. And it's, from a political point of view, it's a very, very sad phenomenon. I would say that if one of them would be the leader for, let's say, 10 years, then the situation could be much better. But this, I would say, symbiotic, balanced, so-called balanced leadership is very sad for the Labour Party.
So what does the party do about it?
I think that the party must do. I don't know if it's doing, but I hope that it will do. First of all, to make clear its messages to the people of Israel, mainly in 4 fields of thinking and policies. One, the peace process and the defense approach of the Labour Party, which must be based on partition between us and the Palestinians, or between us and the Palestinian and Jordanians concerning the West Bank. Secondly, the restructuring of our economy and society. Thirdly, electoral reform in 3 levels: the direct elections of the Prime Minister, the regional proportional elections of the members of Knesset, and primaries in the Labour Party or in the parties in Israel to choose the head of the list or to choose the candidate for the prime ministership. And the 4th one is, I would say, how to cope with the historical miracle we are facing now, the massive aliyah from the USSR. On these 4 points, very clearly and very shortly, we have to make clear our approaches. Secondly, to re-elect our leadership based on primaries, which will be, in those primaries, every member of the Labour Party and everyone who declares himself as a supporter of the Labour Party will have the right to take part. Let's say 200,000 people will come to the secret ballot and will have to elect the one who will lead the Labour Party in the next general elections. We'll, as a result of it, I think we'll have better candidates, and we'll have, from the beginning, before the general elections, a support of 100 or 200,000 people will be committed to the candidate. And I think that the third one is opening the Labour Party to new groups of people. I think that now we are very closed. We have not to be stick upon the old-fashioned principle that only member of the Histadrut can be a member of the Labour Party. There are intellectuals, academicians, people who are involved in businesses.
Moshe Shachal certainly is not a socialist.
I'm not talking about France.
I'm not either, but I know he told me that he's very much into making a very nice living, which is not against the law in this country, that he has a nice home in Caesarea. And I said to Matagur seemed to be more in definition of a socialist. He said, yes, I am a socialist. Shachal had a little funny feeling about it. But I think you're right that the Labour Party historically meant belonging to the Histadrut, and I think that's going to be washed away, and you're really going to be sort of a social democratic party or something. And
I think we are a social democratic party. Of course, many members of the Labour Party will be members of the Histadrut. I am a member of the Histadrut since I was 18 years old. I am not a prince. I was born in a moshav, in a collective village. My parents came over in the third Aliyah. They were socialists. I was grown up in a poverty, I would say, but I didn't feel that I am deprived child because everybody around me were in the same condition. And now I think that the changes in the Israeli society, the changes in the world, have to bring us to a new thinking, to a new approaches. And we are a social democratic party. We are not a socialist party in the old sense of it. And I think that even the British Labour Party now regards itself as a social democrat party and not as a socialist. Neil Kinnock is doing his utmost to depart himself from the image of the left radical wing of the trade unions in order to attract more support from the British electorate. And I think he is doing it very wisely, not only because of electoral reasons, but also because of conceptual reasons. And it is relevant to the Israel Labour Party as well.
There are problems now in the Likud. There are problems with a man called Derry who has possibly criminal problems. Tchia, Moledet, these are all right-wing parties threaten today and yesterday that if the government agrees to some kind of conference which includes East Jerusalemites, they're going to leave, and there's a possibility of new elections. That's basically what I'm saying. Who would lead the party, the Labour Party, in new elections today? Would it be Shimon Peres again?
The one who will be elected, and I hope that the elections will be based on primaries. I hope that a new opening will guide the Labour Party. We cannot just go on with the present situation as the present candidate.
Would you run for leadership?
I guess so, yes.
We'll be back in 1 minute after a commercial break to continue with Gad Yaacobi, one of the younger generation leaders of the Labour Party, one-on-one. Stay tuned. Don't leave us for basketball. Back. I'm Charney. We're speaking to Gad Yaacobi, a member of the Knesset for 22 years with the Labour Party, and I believe a minister for 7 years, Gad?
9.
9 years. Communications, transportation.
And economy.
And economy. Economy planning. Long time. So you're not a newcomer, but in the Labour Party you're considered the younger generation. Rabin did an interview with us, the former Prime Minister and Defense Minister, about 6 months ago when he was openly going to challenge Peres, and he was pretty convinced that he was going to be able to beat him. It was not a direct election, but it was a peripheral type of election. He lost. Why?
I think he lost because of 3 main reasons. One, the so-called elections took place in the Central Committee of the party, which is a very close circle of people, 1,300. Most of them are working in the Histadrut, I would say, establishment. 2/3 of them were nominated to the Central Committee and not elected. The second reason, it was too early vis-à-vis the process of maturing the feeling within the party that a change is needed. And thirdly, the issue was not elections. between Rabin and Peres. The issue was if the party is going to fire Peres or to throw out Peres or to impeach Peres following the loss in the establishing, the forming of the alternative government. And the Israel Labour Party have a trauma concerning impeachments since the Lavon affair. So I think the issue, as was put, helped Peres very much.
I understand that Peres worked tenaciously on every member of that Central Committee. He saw them personally, he visited them personally. I mean, that's part of his character, whereas Rabin was a shy person, sort of laid back and waited for the gravitation. At that time, Rabin was running very high in the polls. He had just come off being a defense minister, and he started to believe in his polls, and he laid back, and Peres really baffled everybody. I remember in the United States, most people thought Rabin was going to win it. They were baffled by the fact that Peres did it. And one knows that Peres is a very arduous worker and a tenacious personality in terms of what he wants to accomplish. Abba Eban once said on our program that Peres will make Ripley's, believe it or not, for the list of broken promises to politicians. You think that's a true statement?
I have an argument with Peres about his modus operandi in politics for many years, and I was disappointed many times. Peres is a homo politicus.
Great word. That I never heard before.
And he is living politics from early in the morning until late at night, 7 days a week, 360 days a year for the last 45 years.
5 days he takes off, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur.
And he is excellent in mobilization, inner support in the party. And I think that he's a hard worker. He knows how to communicate with people personally, mainly in intimate meetings. And it's a great ability in politics. His, I would say, defects are not in these areas. His defects are mainly when he's believing that what he thinks that has to be is a realistic opportunity, is a little bit wishful thinker, and he doesn't listen to people. He doesn't like partners who have independent standings and opinions, and he's, I would say, forgetting too easily commitments to friends. As a statesman, I think he was right basically in most of the national issues. He followed Ben-Gurion on the partition approach, which enabled the forming, the establishment of the State of Israel. He supported the electoral reform from its beginning. He followed the peace approach concerning the building up of Israel towards the future many years. And I think he was quite successful in mobilizing the support for the stabilization economic plan in '85, which was a great move. I wouldn't say that it was his ideas, because we prepared this plan when we were in the opposition before the National Unity Government was formed in '84, but he mobilized the support of the Histadrut, the support of the employers, and he, as a matter of fact, was the one who gave the public ground for this stabilization program to be carried out, which is not very, I would say, marginal crossroad in the road, in the way, in the developments in Israel during the last 6-7 years. So he has many rights as a statesman, but he has many defects as a public figure, and particularly in his behavior vis-à-vis his friends.
Shimon Peres was that when he did become prime minister finally, he was a great prime minister and became very popular. As you said, he took down the inflation, he got the troops out of Lebanon, and he was basically a very able prime minister. And then his polls plummeted again, and the revival seems to be nearly impossible. Gad, were you part of Rabin's cabinet when the Entebbe raid took place?
Yes, not only the cabinet, but also the intimate group of ministers who were in charge of the decision-making which brought to the Entebbe operation.
There's been a lot of history about this. Who and Peres and Rabin continuously fight as to who made that decision. Obviously, it was the prime minister who had the ultimate responsibility. Did they coordinate on this decision on the Entebbe?
Very much so. I would say that the ministerial group of people, group of ministers that were 6 or 7, Rabin, Peres, Galili, Alon, Tzadok and me, worked at that time very, very well, in a very intimate way, in a very coordinated way, and the success was very much a result of this modus operandi. I think all of us, may I say, operated and functioned in very, very efficient way. I was in charge of the relations with the families of the hostages in Israel, relations with the aviation corporations or firms abroad, in charge of the airfields in Israel and NLR operations, and Alon was in charge of foreign affairs. He was the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and Shimon Peres was Minister of Defense, and Rabin was the Prime Minister. And I think that the idea to negotiate during the first 3 or 4 days, when we couldn't see any concrete military alternative for it, was taken by all of us. After 2 or 3 days, the starting of some opening towards military options were thought by the staff, military staff, mainly by the Sayeret Matkal people, a special unit.
Sayeret Matkal is the Chief of Staff Special Scouts, they call them, but they're really the cream of the crop of Israel.
And Shomron,
Dan Shomron,
and Adam Yekutieli, who was later on killed
in Lebanon. Was,
a general.
Named to be Chief of Mossad.
That's right. And some others. And then it was brought up to the Minister of Defense, Shimon Peres, and he talked with every one of us personally before it was brought, including the Prime Minister, before it was brought to the ministerial team, and then it was brought to the cabinet. And I think both of them, Rabin and Peres, and I'm saying it very frankly, and I know all the details, and I wrote a very detailed story about the Entebbe operation in my book, The Government of Israel, as a case study of optimum decision-making processes both of them, Rabin and Peres, function very well. May I reveal a secret?
Please.
And
Our ratings will go up.
it's not a great secret, but in the first day after the plan, the Air France plan was taken out, was kidnapped, Rabin called the ministerial team that was formed in the first cabinet meeting half an hour after I brought the information as Minister of Transport to the cabinet from my people in Ben Gurion Airport. Rabin asked the Chief of Staff at that time, Mota Gur, do you have an idea that could be a basis for a military rescue of the hostages? And Mota Gur said it's too early to react on such a question. And then it took 2 or 3 more days until this idea was worked out in the military staff, and then it was brought to the ministerial team. So I don't think that it's fair to say that one of them, Rabin and Peres, initiated the military option. I think both of them can have the credit for the success of the whole operation.
Interesting times. Must have been exciting for you when it concluded. Were you the youngest minister in the cabinet at that time?
At that time, yes.
How old were you, God?
When I was elected as Minister of Transport, I was 38 years old. But later on, there were younger ministers than me. One of them is
Derry.
Mr. Derry,
How old is
who
Derry?
didn't serve in the army, who didn't study in the university, and he was appointed by the Rabbi Ovadia Yosef. So,
Good qualification.
yes, he is now, I think, 33 years old.
And he's the Minister of Interior?
Interior, yes, it's very, very
Very
meaningful
important post.
and powerful post, yes.
God, the greatest leaders of Israel, in your opinion? Ben Gurion?
The greatest one was David Ben Gurion. He was my teacher, he was my leader. I worked with him in a certain time. I followed him in Rafi Party. He was the greatest statesman in the modern Jewish history. And I don't think that anybody else can be compared to him.
What made him great?
First of all, great vision, realistic approach, knowing how to carry out, to implement the vision in the concrete reality, internationally and internally, how to mobilize public support for his ideas, how to take decisions, how to get or have the authority, natural authority on people. But may I say that he became Prime Minister after he was 15 years chairman of the Jewish Agency and the Zionist movement, 15 years Secretary General of the Histadrut, and we have to remember that at that time the Histadrut and the Jewish Agency were the state in the making, or the government in the making. And then he became the Prime Minister and the Minister of Defense, also for 15 years. So he is a phenomenon. Nobody could be compared to him. He also knew very well to define his ideas. He had an ideological approach to everyday life, but not in the dogmatic way, but in the very pragmatic, open, realistic way. And this combination, I think, is very rare in the political life and concerning political figures all over the world, not only in Israel.
What's your opinion of Menachem Begin?
I knew Menachem Begin quite well. I served with him in the Foreign Affairs and the Defense Committee in the Knesset for some years. I knew him when I was in the opposition to his government. I think Menachem Begin was a great believer in his own ideas, which I opposed and still opposing. Not realistic type of a leader at all. After all, he is in charge of the Lebanon war, which was complete craziness and lunatic initiative on behalf of Israel. And he is in charge, was in charge as a prime minister, not directly to the populistic type of economic policy that was called, in a cynical way, the correct economics, led by Maridor. But because of his unrealistic approach, and because of his natural leadership ability, he the only one at that time that could carry out and lead towards full completion and success the Camp David Accord. And because of it, he'll be remembered as a great leader of Israel. Just because of it.
Absolutely.
And only because of it.
And a nuclear reactor strike today.
Yes, and which I, by the way, supported and opposed the approach of Shimon Peres at that time. I thought that it was the right move, and I thought that we had to bless it and not to criticize it.
I served some time as an advisor to President Carter, and he found Menachem Begin highly intelligent, strong-willed, a very, very stubborn man. And
I fully agree.
I guess that's what you find. What's your feeling about Camp David? Is this one of the great phenomena in this region in the last 50 years?
I think that after the declaration of independence of the State of Israel and after the 2 or 3 basic laws that we adopted in the Knesset, the Knesset basic law, the government basic law, the IDF basic law, and after the absorption of the mass immigration in the early 50s, Camp David Accord is the greatest historical event in the history of Israel. And it was a real crossroad. My main worry now that perhaps will not follow the ground the Camp David Accord supplied and enabled Israel towards the future to accomplish the next stage of it, which is the autonomy, and after it, the permanent arrangement or peace agreement with the Palestinians and the Jordanian-Palestinian state.
You said something in the beginning of the interview when Peres was trying to form a government and he was giving away the store, so to speak, to the religious parties, and then the whole thing collapsed on him when these two, Vertiger, and I forgot his other name, they walked on the other side of the line. How did you feel during that? It was sort of like a shook. I mean, it was something untenable. If you had a principle, you're willing to compromise so many principles to buy your prime ministership. It must have made you feel very ticklish, because I know basically you're a principled man and an intellectual man.
May I tell you very frankly, I didn't believe in this move at all. I thought that he'll not be successful in forming this kind of a government. It was unnatural approach to politics, against nature, against rules of nature. You cannot impose your obsessive will on the reality if this reality contradicts the real opportunity that you would like to carry out. And I didn't believe in it, first of all. Secondly, I was disgusted, just disgusted. And I said many times in these meetings of the Labour Party ministers and in the Labour Party bureau that I think that this phenomenon of acting against basic norms in Israel will shed, will be in our, will be shadows in our political image and political morality for many years to come. And I think that it caused a lot of damage to the attitudes and perception of the people of Israel, of politics, of politicians, of democratic political processes, of government, of Knesset. And the only way to change it, I think, is electoral reform.
So from a negative may come a positive, and that
Perhaps.
probably spurred on the electoral reform that's going on. Another thing that I never understood, and it's common knowledge, and I'm a friend of Laser Weitzman, you had in your cabinet, inner cabinet, and Peres had at his disposal Weitzman, who was probably the best received persona in the Arab world. Why was he not more used by Peres? Do you know?
No. I think that Azer is too independent for him. I said before that I don't think that Peres liked very much independent thinkers and independent public figures. From time to time, he has not any other alternative but to work with them because they are too powerful to ignore them, like Rabin, for example. But if it depends on his free will, he prefers people who are more convenient, quote, unquote.
Interesting analysis. We'll be back in 1 minute, conclude this interview with Gad Yaacobi. I'm going to ask him about what he feels the future of Israel will look like 20 years from now. We're going to make him a prophet. Jeremiah or Joshua, I don't know. Take your choice. We'll be back. We're back. I'm Leon Charney with Gad Yaacobi and the dog who just joined us. God, I hope it doesn't mean that the Labor Party's gone to the dogs. But one of the things that General Schwarzkopf did yesterday when he returned to Tampa, Florida, was he greeted his family, his brother, and his dog. So you're permitted.
Yes, it's a full legitimation.
Full legitimacy. Do you have any problem with the Palestinian state?
It's not our bloody business. We are not the ones who will declare about Palestinian state. Our business is to secure, to defend, and to make Israel grow and to be a democratic Jewish state. How they live, if within a federation of Jordanian-Palestinian state, or confederation of Jordanian-Palestinian state, or in any other mode, that is their businesses, and they have to decide about it. We have to negotiate with the Palestinians from the territories, not the international PLO, but with our neighbors, as they are, to come with them to an agreement. In this agreement, most of the territories, all the populated areas in the territories has to be a part of an Arab state. I would like that it will be Palestinian-Jordanian state, but if they'll decide differently, it's their bloody business, not mine.
My last question is really a visionary question. I asked this only of a few political leaders in Israel. Do you see yourself visiting Damascus in 25 years by highway, freely traveling and going up to Amman, Jordan to have a weekend with your wife? Will the borders be open and free? Is it a possibility?
You see, it's very dangerous
To be a prophet.
to foresee the future, and especially in Israel. And some people are saying that it's very dangerous to make a prophecy, and especially about the future. But I think
There are
that...
some people in the Labor Party who are great prophets about the past.
Yeah, that's right. That's the only thing that is changing all the time. You see, the past is changing. The future is quite constant.
Right.
So, so it's much easier to debate the past here. But anyhow, to be serious about it, I believe that it's a natural process that all the countries in the area, mainly because of the international trends and the technological changes, nuclear energy, ballistic missiles, telecommunications, the world as a one global village, as McLuhan said. I think that it's natural that peace will be conceived, will be achieved in this period of time. I believe that even earlier, that more and more people will understand that without a change in the political situation here, there is no real chance for economic growth and for well-being of the people. And I believe that what you said will be a reality even before the 25 years that you have indicated.
There you have it, a one-on-one with Gad Yaacobi, one of the leading younger generation members of the Labour Party, a possible candidate for Prime Minister of the State of Israel, who just wrote a brand new book, Wanted, a New Course. If you get it in the United States, I should suggest you get it. If you can't, call us and we'll see that you do get it. We'll see you next week with another interview.